I realised today that I'd never actually done a test video on this, although I have tested it before. It's the Finnish M61 V3 made by Nokia. And for those of you that don't actually believe these were made by Nokia, hopefully that's in frame. You can see there, next to my finger, there is the Nokia symbol. The same Nokia that used to make mobile phones, or still does make mobile phones. But then they took the silly decision to only make Windows phones. It's 60mm, I've still got a couple of these sealed Finnish filters. I basically use them to test masks and reseal them. These filters wouldn't really be any good for actual CBRN use, but the point of this video isn't to test the filters, but I think there's enough charcoal in it that's not fully adsorbed stuff or perished that it can actually absorb smells fairly well. The point of these videos is to test the effectiveness of the masks. Now, the Finnish M61s were probably the best of the M9 clones, actually better than American M9s. Very good elastic straps with a decent head harness on it. The oral nasal cup thing inside and everything is very good. The rubber is made from a very flexible, nice rubber. Sort of a lot like the Czech masks have that kind of rubber. And the V3 version had a voice diaphragm on it. Now, my complaint with this mask is the voice diaphragm, because basically when I got this years ago, the cover with the Finnish tower on was upside down, so I thought, right, what I'll do then is I will take this cover off, flip it around the right way, screw it back on. However, it turned out when I took the cover off, it broke the seal on the voice diaphragm, which is like a metal plate, and I couldn't get it to purify or make an airtight seal again, if that makes sense. So what I had to do was actually get a load of super glue around the edge of the metal, push it in, hold it in place till the glue had set, then put the cover on. I guess it was maybe missing O-rings, or for whatever reason, once it's undone from the factory, the seal wasn't as good. Now, it's very easy how they've made this mask into a voice diaphragm unit. If you look at the mask there, that's where the exhale valve would normally be on a standard V1 or V2 version of this. And what they've basically done is made a plastic housing that has an exhale valve at the bottom and a voice diaphragm here. And the idea is that you basically just got a unit you install on the V2 style mask to make it a V3 mask. But the rubber is very nice and supple on this mask, as said, and one of the great things about Finnish M61s compared to a lot of other masks at the period is they have got very good peripheral seals on them. This is why these masks work better for me than the American M9s or the Yugoslavian M1s, because they've got a good peripheral seal on them, which means that even if your face isn't the ideal fit for the mask, it works. So let's put the mask on. Now I'll tighten it. Get that bottom bit nice and secure, right down the side straps. I think that one's slightly tangled, so let me sort that out. There we go. And then let's get this top strap done right. Now, open this up again. Right, hopefully the filter should go in easily. Right, there we go, the filter's on. Sounds like a slight bit of air's getting in somewhere. I think this buckle's a bit twisted as well. I can still hear a bit of air leaking, so it might be the voice diaphragm that's going to fail the test. So let's see. Right, what I'm going to do is first I'm going to test this with ice and elastotape, see if I can smell anything. Then we will go on to the actual air freshener. Yeah, I can smell that the voice diaphragm is failing the mask. So what I'm going to do is I am going to disassemble the mask. I'll show you what the valve assembly looks like, and then we'll see if we can fix it. So let's do that. Right, so I'm going to use a Swiss Army knife with a flathead screwdriver end to take this cover off. I'll stop the video here and start the video again when the cover's off. Okay, so the cover's removed from the voice diaphragm and I can see the problem. So let's zoom in on it, and hopefully you'll be able to see the problem too. So let's hold the camera there, try and keep it in focus, and I will point out the problem. The problem is that the plate is lifting up at the sides, and if the plate lifts up, then obviously it's not going to make an airtight seal. So the system here is meant to work exactly like the sort of Soviet voice diaphragms, but it uses a flexible metal plate rather than an actual, let's say, sort of cling filmy kind of stuff that the Soviets use. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to squirt some fresh glue under it and see if I can get that to bond down properly. Then I'm going to force the lid down. That's what the underside of the lid looks like if you're interested. Nothing particularly interesting about it. I think I might have put some blue tack on here at one point as well. But anyway, I'm going to super glue that back down if I've got any spare super glue, and then we will test the mask. In theory everything should work if the voice diaphragm's fixed, but unfortunately, due to the age of this, and I said, because whichever Finn at the Nokia factory put this on originally, they put it on that way up, and my OCD annoyed me having it round the wrong way, so I took it up, and that's when the plate originally peeled up. So let's freshly glue this down, then we can get on to finally testing the mask. Okay, so I've glued this all back together. Basically what I've done is put a ring of adhesive glue, sort of like super glue, in a circle around the thing, put the entire plate back down, held it flush, then I've put the cover back on. Now the cover doesn't actually seem to sit totally flush if you look around the edges. I've tried to do all the screws up evenly, and part of the plastic has begun cracking there, so whether or not this mask actually works, I don't know. If this doesn't work, this will be one of the very few masks I've ever done the tests on with the surplus ones that have actually failed, which would be a real shame. I was seeing if I could actually see a date stamp on the individual mask anywhere for the year it was made, but I can't seem to. But I assume this would be from somewhere in the 1980s, M61 with the V3 sort of diaphragm on it. So without further ado, let's put this on and actually test it. Now I might start getting high off of the fumes from the glue, because the smell of that is very strong inside the mask at the moment. But anyway, let's get these straps done up. Try and do them looser rather than tighter to start with, and then as needed do it. So let's see if I can smell the banana. Now I couldn't feel any air going in when I did that, so that's a good sign. So let's try the isomel acetate first around that area. No smell of isomel acetate, just a smell of glue. Right, I can't smell isomel acetate anywhere. As I've said to people before, that's not how you're meant to test a mask of isomel acetate, but the smell is very strong coming out of that bottle. So if the filter had failed or there was a bit of a gap in the rubber, I'd have smelled it straight away, as I did when that failed. So, now we know that the thing should be working fairly well. Let's put this in for a couple of minutes. And we'll see if anything starts to fail on the mask and I smell the air freshener. At the moment we're all good. So the Finnish M61s, if you watch this channel enough, you know I absolutely love these masks. The M61 V2 was the first ever gas mask I owned. It was the kind of mask that made me go, oh cool, gas masks are really cool, aren't they? It wasn't until a few years later that I actually started buying them properly in big numbers. But the M61 was the mask that started it all, the V2. So these masks have the comically big nose because the Tissot tube system and the oral nasal cup sit in there. Basically the filter brings the air through that big nose section to go to each eye. This little bit here. That's where they connect the eyes. And the oral nasal cup sits in there. But yeah, these are basically licensed, as far as I can tell, copies of the American M9A1, and the Finns just kept improving them with each design. Now it's arguable how good this design is, obviously if the voice diaphragm is prone to failure. But overall these are very good masks. Now they are bulky 60mm masks, I'll say that. But the rubber on these is just so comfortable.
Out of all the masks I own, I think the M61s are actually literally one of the most comfortable. It's like right up there with things like the S10 and FM12 and masks like that. Because the rubber's got the right texture of being just flexible enough but firm enough that it'll keep its shape. It's got a really good head harness system and elasticated straps. Very easy straps to tighten and undo. So no problem there. It's a 6-point head harness as well, which means obviously you get a better seal with it than the 5-point harness really. And yeah, it's out of all the M61 clones, it has the best straps, I'd say the best rubber. It's got the peripheral seal I showed at the beginning of the video. It's one of the reasons I really like this mask, because regular M9s don't make a perfect fit with my face, it would seem. But both my Finnish M61s make a very good face seal without me needing to do the straps up super tight. But yeah, I can't smell any air freshener, so the mask appears to be working now I've bodged that voice diaphragm back together. How good the voice diaphragm is I don't know until I review the footage. Because I think the Soviet cling film kind of one works quite well for what it is, but obviously a metal plate would have been stronger when it was all put together. But a bit of a flaw in the mask design is that there's not really any washers and O-rings sort of in that assembly to keep all the parts sitting snugly together without needing adhesives on there. But yeah, overall, I very much like this mask, I said, because the M61 V2 was my first mask, and I like the V3. I've had this mask for years as well, I've just never actually really done many videos on it on this channel, definitely not a test video before. But yeah, all sitting well. Very comfortable mask. The extra bit of dead space in this mask actually makes it quite comfortable. But the Serbian M2 is interesting, where they basically took an M9, made it into 40mm and cut the size down quite a lot. And there's a version of the M2 with a voice box, which as far as I'm aware is very similar to the Finnish one, so I don't know if it has the same problems or not. If I ever find one for sale at some point, I might pick the mask up and have a look. But the Serbs have now moved on to basically what's an M40 style mask. So, yeah, overall the Finnish mask works really well. Let me just break the seal and smell. Yeah, I definitely smell air freshener there. So somehow this old 1980s Finnish filter is still somehow working, but I guess, I'd never trust my life on a filter this old, but I guess for a bit of air freshener and banana oil it still works. And the mask itself works, except for the repair job I had to do on them. But as I said earlier, if I hadn't been OCD about the Finnish defence tower being the wrong way around on the mask, that thing would have never broken anyway, because I'd have never taken the thing off and it did work initially. I was just like, that's upside down, I don't like it, it's upside down. So I took it off, flipped it around, and oh dear, I broke the O-ring and sort of seal it. But there you go. Finnish M61 V3, very good mask, used up until some point in the 1990s, early 2000s as far as I'm aware. Before the Finns eventually replaced it with the Scott M95, which I hear is a good mask, but sadly never seen one for sale for less than £100, so I've never bought one. But there you go. Finnish M61 V3, great mask.